guest, Jonathan Arango, and I love this intro. It's great. So I'm gonna lean into the microphone for my my radio voice for this one because I love it. Rapid and sustainable growth is Jonathan's true passion. Building and nurturing. Oh my gosh, this is going well already. This is the beauty of being live, right? Building and nurturing meaningful relationships by providing an authentic client experience is Jonathan's calling. Empowering a team to do the above serves as the ultimate reward and satisfaction and provides consistency through excellence. Now, with 20 years of experience in retail management, working with companies such as TD Bank, TELUS, and now through Michael Hill, Jonathan has been able to really polish and strengthen his leadership skills and truly focus on providing the best customer service and support in the jewelry industry. Jonathan, welcome to Sales Team Rescue.
Awesome, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
So in full transparency, you're here because you're my diamond guy and you're awesome. And we totally clicked when we were looking at shiny things. I say diamond, I mean, not just diamonds, right? The store has rings and watches and lots of cool stuff.
Definitely.
I want to bring you on here because a lot of people who we talk about run like large corporate sales teams, but not so much in the retail space. Mm-hmm. And you're one of the few managers in the retail space that I've come across that really lean into the personal development space, that really get it. And so that was where our conversation kind of really started from when we first connected. But tell me a little bit about what got you to this point where you're running the store for Michael Hill here in Fredericton. Give us a little bit of the journey.
Yeah, definitely. So I've, like, as I said, I've been in retail now close to 20 years. So I started off, believe it or not, doing weddings. As a kid, I used to assist video and photography. So I used to do a lot of weddings. And being from Toronto specifically, there's a huge like European community. So I was always involved in weddings early on. So interacting with people. And then, you know, it led me into retail. TD was the first one as a teller. And so you really got to understand sort of different interactions that way. And then, you know, quickly moved to TELUS, and obviously that was before. I'm talking about the click wheel with the BlackBerry, the blue one specifically, where, you know, that thing. I'm dating myself, but that's when things started. Then quickly to a Palm Trio, and again, I'm naming things that no longer exist.
I can almost name the years of each of these products. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a different time frame where electronics, and especially TELUS as a corporation, was really centered on the experience of people. And then obviously you're providing a need, right? Technology has come such a long way. And then I decided to challenge myself, and, you know, I've met a lot of great leadership and managers that are within the Michael Hill company that brought me over. And I figured, you know what, jewelry is interesting because it's an emotional buy. So not really a need. Specifically. So it was interesting to sort of challenge my sort of what I've picked up through my experience sales wise, how to connect with people in terms of knowing that, you know, with jewelry specifically, it's linked to some of the best moments of their lives. So it's more fulfilling, I think, because you're able to contribute to something that usually leads to happiness in most cases.
In most cases, yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So, and that's one thing I'll say when I sat down with you, and I'll be transparent. I walked across the hallway to step into Michael Hill, and I didn't really know. I mean, obviously it was a jewelry store because there were shiny things, you know, going through at the mall. But when I went over to look at watches, right? But the experience that you created, it was just like, it was one of the most welcoming experiences I've had in a retail store, like maybe ever. I mean, there's people that are good, but like, you created a phenomenal experience. And I'm not sure whether it's specifically you or your team or the overall corporate energy of Michael Hill, but I know you individually played at least a significant part. But, you know, as we get in there, your team was out and everybody got to know everybody, and conversations about dog parks, and there's relationship building, and it wasn't just you, it was the whole team.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things where like they gotta believe what you believe. So when it comes, and again, it could be pertinent specifically to sales, but like diamonds or even the store itself, when you create an environment, right? Like the way that I've always looked at it, because I've been around a lot of great teams, pretty much I've worked at every major mall in Toronto. So Eaton Centre, which is downtown Toronto, Yorkdale, which is one of the most expensive malls in North America, really, Square One, Mapleview, if you're going to Burlington, Lime Ridge, if you're going to Hamilton. So I've been in various hotspots. And the environment and the energy I've been able to pull from there in terms of meeting different people from all walks of life, whether it's executive or corporate to tourists that visit from all over the world, you're able to sort of learn from that and pull that into relating to people, right? So the great thing about kind of what, not just Michael Hill's been able to teach me specifically, but they enabled me to run my team the way that I truly feel passionate about. So getting to know them as people, but they're integral parts of a very complex system because everybody has their own strengths. So I think that the greatest thing that I've been able to accomplish coming from Ontario specifically to Fredericton, because it's a huge change, is that you're able to sort of lean in on, it's a community feeling. So you want to be able to lean in not just on your team, but on everybody that you surround yourself with. That way, and you've mentioned this quite a bit actually, in terms of, what can I do? How do I serve? And if you bring that mentality to a sales, specifically jewelry, which is, like I mentioned, an emotional buy, then it is a relatable thing. Unfortunately, in the industry that we're in, we sell emotion, but it's one of the coldest industries. Like you said, you go to any specific store, I'm not going to mention names, and that's not just jewelry, just any customer service. Right. Nowadays, it is lacking. It's almost like a lost art. So what I love to connect with is the art of it all, but also ensuring that the team believes what you believe. So, back to what you were saying, I think you were mentioning about, having a vision and stuff before and previous content that you have. And that's true. You hit the nail right on the head with that. You have to have a vision that everybody can share. And if the vision is, we're all adults, we're here to have fun, do our job, be consistent with it, and just know that, further to lead building, that's the name of the game within being in such a great community like Fredericton.
Awesome. Yeah. So I know I've been in stores, and I will say, like, jewelry stores, I won't name names, because there's some other stores that are also great.
Yes.
Some very large chains that sometimes it feels like when you walk in, it's almost like you're annoying them because you walked in. They're like, oh, now I got to work. Now, there's some that are great, but there's some that I specifically don't like walking into because I feel like there's this attitude.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, all right. But so for you to be able to create an experience so consistently, and I say consistently because not just because when I walked in and when I brought my girlfriend in, that it was just a great experience for us. But at one point when we were in there, somebody walked out and said, I just bought this. She shows this ring on her finger, and she said, these guys are amazing to work with.
Yeah.
What you're looking at, get it. Like, wow, that was awesome, and that doesn't happen at jewelry stores.
No,
it doesn't happen in Fredericton either. Like, not in the store usually.
Yeah, and well, it's part of the success is again, I've been lucky because when you're transitioning from one team to another, and it happens with all of us in business, you usually inherit people. It's inevitable, right? So when it comes to team building, you usually inherit the good with the bad, so to speak.
Right. Yep.
I've been lucky enough that in part the core people that have been with the company and the store from the beginning are still there because they're very much responsible and are part of the success of the store, building the relationships, having the personalities. And in jewelry specifically, you have to have that personality to sort of connect with people on a genuine level. So much so that, we've created an environment in the store where it does sort of become a hangout, kind of like now I'm going to date myself again. Cheers, that bar where everybody knows your name. Well, it's a jewelry store where, coincidentally enough, we know their name, they know our name, and it's the entire team. So I'm very proud of them, and I'm very proud of what, we've been able to accomplish in such a short time frame, because I've been in the business, like I got here, it's going to almost come up on 2 years in July. The first year was sort of adapting, which was it's tough because you end up figuring out what I'm used to in terms of how I approach the business in Ontario is completely different the way I approach the business in the Maritimes, because of the mindset, because of just a lot of things. Like, we can talk about cost, we could talk about the land, the beauty of it all, the quality of air, the connection to nature. And yeah, literally Maritimers are the most laid back, fun, charming people that I've met. So there's a lot of good. Obviously there's a lot of bad too, because you only, not to get political with it, but you wish that there was more that could be done, because again, it's a good community. But I was able to adapt into the second year to really, the name of the game has always been growth. How do you grow it? And the growth and sustainability factor is that relationship building. So the fact that I've been able to create, or we've been able to create as a team, or rather, that hangout spot in a jewelry store is different. And I think it's only possible because it is Fredericton, and because of the people, which is really cool. So I guess what I'm getting at is I love the people in the city. I'm happy that I'm here. It's not just, well, I got a gig, I got a promotion, this is my due diligence, I got to put in the time, which again, some people can look at it that way. But more importantly, I do genuinely love the people that walk in there, and you try to give them not just the best deal possible and beautiful quality jewelry, but you also want to connect their story to it, because that's what makes more sense to me. That's top of mind. That pink or purple box with the brown bow is going to be the thing that they'll think about when they have something to celebrate and to really be happy. And especially in the times that we're living in now with, social and physical distancing, it's something that represents that normalcy of, hey, you know what, you mean this much to me, I appreciate you in a relationship, here's a piece of jewelry that signifies that. And that's sort of what I'm proud of doing in a way.
That's amazing. Yeah. And, and another side note, I pretty sure, in fact, I'm 100% confident yours is the only jewelry store I've ever had a seat in.
Oh,
that hangout environment.
That is pretty interesting, because you're right about that. Yeah.
I've been even to the really nice watch stores in Phoenix. I didn't sit. I tried on some really nice high price watches. Never had a seat.
Yeah, the attention to detail there, Jeremy. That's actually huge, man. You're right. There is a more of a relaxed component when you're able to have a seat. Because I've worked at stores where I've stood up as well, right? So because we have certain stores in Ontario where you stand up because the counter space is set a little higher. Yeah. So therefore, but I've always found that, yeah, if you can sit down with the person, that means you have their ear, that means you have their time, and you're able to, what we all know in sales, break down the resistance. Because there's no matter what application you want to go to, jewelry specifically being the example we're using now, but every sales interaction is like a story. There's always three parts. There's the beginning, there's the middle, and there's the end. A lot of it, I don't want to say it's equally as important. They're all important, but the middle of it, which is where you get them to sit down, is the real magic, because you get to know them, and then you get to kind of piece together what is it they're really going for. Because there's a weird thing with jewelry where it does, women specifically, it speaks to them, and I've seen it. You can't. There's no training guide or handbook that you can read about that teaches you this. You just have to be very observant, and I love it when the partner catches that glimpse or that smile, and then that's the ring there, and the sale is done. That's the ring. They love it. They're going to walk away with it. It's just a matter of hashing out what makes sense for them to spend and what tools we have in order to make it happen for them. But the sale's done at that point. So I love, those are the little, sort of like in poker, there's tells. That's the biggest tell, because you want it to be the least complicated experience of your life. marriage or specifically relationships, it's a huge thing that we're social animals. So even in this time, we're at home with our partner and we're either getting to know whether or not we really love those people or damn, I don't know if this is necessarily the right thing. So it's an interesting symbol that we use to kind of convey, hey, this is the person that is going to drive me nuts for the rest of my life. So, and I'm good with that. So it's I love that. I think that sort of attention to detail, like you just paid attention to the seats, which it eluded me, which is brilliant. Never thought of that actually. So it's all in the details, right? So I find that in terms of connecting and with diamonds, like there's this misconception, and I know we weren't going to get into the nitty gritty or the specs of diamonds, because for some people it could be an interesting thing. For some people it could just be like, hey, if it shines nice and it's the right price, that's what matters the most. I get that, and I respect that too. But yeah, there's common misconceptions. A lot of people think that with diamonds you have to have the purest clarity because that's all that matters. But at the end of the day, if you're paying for something that you literally can't see to the naked eye, which is the key thing, can you see it with the naked eye? If you can see it with the naked eye, then we have something to talk about. But if you can't see it with the naked eye, then why are you going to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on something you're necessarily not going to even see? It's just for lack of a better word, a money grab, right? So now we're getting specifically turning into diamonds specifics in terms of, wanting to be that diamond, everyone's diamond guy. That's one of the tidbits and advices I can give is don't fall prey to specs, because specs isn't necessarily the only thing. And by specs, I mean specifications of a diamond. So there's usually the 4 C's, which are cut, color, clarity, and carat weight. Those are what determine the characteristics of any diamond, really. So again, not to say that clarity isn't the end all be all, because some people, if they can afford it, if they enjoy it, why not? Hey, power to you. But especially here in the Maritimes, it's all about having that money work for you. So if you're able to save money on a piece of jewelry or a diamond specifically, then there is enough money for the boat and the bike and the paddleboard and the property and the acres of land. So you gotta, I don't know, at least I've come to the understanding of the way the market here thinks and works. And I'm very respectful of that, because I am, as very much a guest here, I want to be part of the community. So I have to be always respectful of that. There is a balance. And I think that a lot of retailers don't do that. The bottom line is how much money, you're a number, you're not a person. And I'm not about that philosophy. Specifically, anyway.
Yeah. So, I think so. One of the things that I really like again is the experience. But let's take a step back and look at how do you create that experience. So you talked about you inherit people. Some are great. There's some opportunity to grow. How does someone like you, who's managing a team in the retail space, create such a consistent experience for your clients or your customers, and no matter who they're talking to in the store? How do you do that?
You do it by leading by example. So you got to show that you can do it yourself. I've run across a lot of teams where the leadership, they're not the best. You have to be the best in order to lead. If you're not, then they're not going to want to take that ownership of following through, because you as a leader aren't providing that guidance. So I'm very hands-on, so I'll lead by example. So it's kind of like a proud papa moment where they're talking to a client, you're not even involved, but when you're pulled into the sale, you're backing up exactly what they said verbatim. That's just the kind of chemistry we have. But how did I get there? Which is a really good question. Is you have to track it, right? So if you don't track it, it doesn't exist. Obviously, I'm not going to bore you with KPIs. We all know what they are in terms of measuring, whether it's traffic, whether it's average sale, whether it's items per sale and so forth. We all have those measures, right? But more than tracking it is how do you give effective feedback in order for them to get better? And how do they feel? And do they feel that genuinely, are you there to make them better? Or is this just another gig or another job, right? So what I've been able to do personally is with the team, I've flipped the script. So the team is now my customer. It's my client.
Yeah.
Not just, so I'm selling myself every day I'm in there. And obviously it's going to be 2 years, and specifically Barb and Katie, who are literally my left and right arm in the store. They know me they know me. So they know my personality. They've gotten to know me, but they can tell when I'm selling them something or whether I'm being me. And that's cool. It's very rare. It's a hard thing to get. So, the biggest thing is when you're doing follow-up, when you are tracking everything. So you got to observe everything. And a lot of leadership fails to do that in terms of being out on the floor. They're always in the back room, and we are bombarded by emails. We got transfer. We got so many, admin things to do that we're not out there observing sales. And again, it could get frustrating because it's Fredericton. It's not Toronto where you're blasted by waves of hundreds of people at any given time. Versus here, you can see maybe 10 people the whole day. But the one thing that I've been able to kind of give as feedback and have them grow and learn is it just takes one person to go from zero to hero, especially in the diamond industry. It's a type of sales, like we sell everything else, right? We have silver, we have beautiful gold, beautiful colored stones, watches, and so forth. But make no mistake, we're in the diamond industry. And when you focus on building that relationship, you got to know what works for you. So everybody has their personalities, and I try to bring out their personalities within a training system that we offer at Michael Hill. So, how to break down a sale, which is the first, how to approach, right? So if you approach a customer, what's your non-business opening line, so to speak? And that's something we track. That's just a simple example. If you're in the middle of a sale, what questions are you consistently asking? Questions that are probing specifically to what the needs are. And there's usually 4 or 5. Like, what's the occasion? When's the occasion? Who's it for? And what have you bought or seen before? Or something like that, to that effect. I'm probably butchering it right now, but because I'm always free flowing. I'm a better freestyler but that's the tool that we use to measure that works for the team and the ladies there. So they're consistent in following that, and then using their personalities with it. So in terms of really being able to relate, right? So there's a lot of things that a lot of people miss in conversation. For me, the one thing that I love to talk about is travel, because I've traveled to tons of places. I've always traveled since I was 16. So I love talking about travel, because if somebody has been to the place that you've been to, you can reminisce about the cool things about that place. And especially now that we're not able to travel, talking about travel is even more. That's why I've been, on a side thing, working on travel pictures, because it connects us, right? As human beings, it kind of broadens our mind in a way, right? So travel is something that's a topic that I tend to use, and the ladies love that. Sorry, the team rather. So those are the things or strategies that we put in place to sort of be authentic, but also create an environment where the customer can also feel authentic as well. So and I can dive into any realm. We can talk about Star Wars, Star Trek, or we can talk about neuroscience and cell division. I love knowing about everything just to have something to talk about, and I also in turn I learn. So I that is contagious. I kind of make the team out to be like little mini detectives. So when they do go out there and do interact with people, they find out as much information about them as possible, which in turn turns into great customer service, which in turns, creates an everlasting relationship, which people feel great to hang out and even just say hi. And I tell that all the time. Hey, you can come to the store and say hi. You don't have to buy anything. And we've really created that environment for when that customer that on their way out say, hey, he's the best, he's the guy that hangs out when I've told him, hey, you don't have to, you're just saying hi. So, like basically you want to be in business, but specifically in what I do, but I think in business too, is you want to be their go-to person. Whether it's your go-to mechanic, your go-to diamond person. If you create enough of a bond, that's what's going to sustain you. And that's what's going to give you repeat business. I haven't, like my success year over year growth is specifically indebted to repeat business. That's what saved me through Christmas. That's what saved me through January, February. I was on a roll up until this thing happened. I'm up on the year, so I'm happy about that. But it's because we've been able, as a team, as a core, been able to understand that, people, it seems like a simple thing, love to be treated like people. And in turn, with respect, want to be heard, understood. And at a jewelry store, I guess it's a hard thing to come by. So I'm just happy that we've been able to establish something that's unique and something that can offer assistance to everyone. It doesn't matter. You don't have to know about diamonds. You don't have to spend, I can tell you that right now, you don't have to spend $1,000 on a diamond to get a beautiful diamond. You can spend what you feel you need to spend. So I think that's been part of the success, is that as a team, we're really in sync with that philosophy. Awesome. And it's genuine.
Yeah. So what I've come away with on the team development side is, one, inspect what you expect, right? You gotta be paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
2, lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 is track, right? Even little, like the opening lines you're talking. I think that's huge. And in sales centers and call centers with large sales teams, they do that. But we sometimes don't think about it in retail. But I know in previous lives, I'll say, I've been any, whether it's working back at the gas station or doing like testing out testing the waters in a brand ambassador role, where I'm just hanging out promoting a brand for fun.
Yeah, exactly.
I got paid too. but we're trying things. Hey, what works? What doesn't? I mean, for me, it was my dad does wood carving, and he had me at trade shows when I was 10.
That's cool.
And I'd be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And and it evolved to the point where he does the carvings are about like they're fish and ducks and animals, and I'd say, "Go ahead, feel free to touch. Most of them don't bite." And that became my entry line. And I apologize to people in booths next to me at any time I'm at a store with them. I'm like, "I'm so sorry. You're going to get so sick of hearing this, but let me tell you it works." So like, it's all good. So yeah, tracking that stuff is such a huge thing that a lot of people, I think, take for granted. So Jonathan, I want to jump in and I want to take you through what I call the lightning round. And I didn't really prepare you for this, but this is the fun part. Okay.
Perfect.
I'm going to hit you with a couple of questions just to learn a little bit more about you personally. So as we know, coffee is for closers. What's your favorite kind of coffee or comparable drink?
Ooh. If I really need that extra kick, a flat white.
Okay.
It's like super espresso, like I don't know how many shots of espresso with steam.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Sure. Second question. What's the number one book or movie you would recommend to sales reps or sales leaders?
Ooh, number one book. It's a book by Simon Sinek.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard of Simon Sinek.
Oh, yes.
But I believe it's Ask Why.
Start with Why?
Start with Why, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great book. I love
it. Absolutely, because it's with business, like we're told numbers, which is fine. I get it. Like numbers are a result. You need numbers. And again, back to tracking and all that stuff, it's important. And it gives you a visual. So I can walk into any store, any Michael Hill store, and look at a back wall and know and spot trends right away. Who's the bottom? Who's the top performer? How am I able to be that agent of change right away? How do I make so tracking is huge, but there's also that sort of soul component with that book that Simon Sinek eloquently does to start with why, to really find your purpose. That combined with the other physical representations of or what our results are, you're an unstoppable force. So yeah, I think that would be the book I would recommend for leaders specifically. Movie, damn, I don't know. There's so many. Like for fun or for business?
Uh, ideally for business to help with sales. Like I remember
a fun one, Boiler Room.
Yeah, that's actually the first one I was told to watch. I started a call center and they said, go watch Boiler Room. And I'll tell you, it's a great movie, especially when you take it, you delete the context of all the negativity.
Well, but always be closing, right? So that I guess like I think we touched upon it before. You were at a few conferences before. I think it was end of the year, if I'm not mistaken, December-ish. Was it in Vegas?
February. Yeah.
February. Sorry, February. See, when I'm in retail, my time frame is always lost. But like, you got to have those the consistency factor of always knowing, okay, this like it gets draining, but that rinse and repeat mentality is what gets you to success. Because you're and if you look at it as that you're constantly honing your craft, then it becomes fun. And but you have to do it. You got to keep doing it. And as many times, and it sounds, silly, but as many times as you fall, you get back. Like you have to do it in order to, become excellent. So that's what it is that consistency factor in that always be closing thing, tying it back to the movie.
I think my favorite part of the movie is when Vin Diesel's character makes the comment, says, or I forget what he says, but then he covers the phone and just sits in silence. He doesn't actually close. He just asks the question and lets the silence sit. And that's one of the most powerful things. And then the doctor comes back and says, I'll take, however, 1,000 shares or whatever it is. But
those silences, you're right.
Yeah, it's huge. So awesome. So who is somebody that you would consider to be a mentor in your life or have in the past?
Well, obviously my father, but he's no longer with me. Because I learned a lot from what he did, being part of the church and running a church, and because that's a business onto its own, even though we don't really consider it. Because you are helping people and making an impact in their lives and stuff like that. But I did learn a lot in terms of the psychological connection with understanding on how to, help people and really get them out of those, immobilized states of hopelessness to becoming, whether it's a productive member of society, but just a better version of themselves, basically. So that was huge in terms of seeing that and growing up in that environment and seeing how well he executed that. But not only that, I was always, being in that environment, I was always surrounded by the prophets and the apostles and the evangelists that would roll through. So I'd be able to pick their brains because we had a bigger house, so they would stay at our house for the weekend. If they had, let's say, Sunday was their day to do their thing at this church or another church, they would stay at my place. So I would learn from them and pick their brains in terms of how they see. And again, we're talking about from a religious, spiritual, specifically aspect, but it definitely touched me in a way where I generally do have an empathy for people because I've seen what they can be on the lowest of the low, and I've seen them go be the best of the best and have a family and a career, and from despair to being completely happy and successful. So yeah, I would say definitely that environment and those men there. Different. I won't go into names because there's too many, but we're good mentors growing up and sort of learning the craft. But in terms of leaders, pretty much I've learned from every manager that I've had throughout my career. Not that there hasn't been less than qualified managers, but you still learn from those people too.
Yeah. I've learned how to manage managers from bad managers.
But currently, in terms of my role and what I've seen is, the management or the executive team here, I've been able to learn from too, because they're about that. They we do sit in the back and not just talk numbers, but there is sort of like a book club, book recommendations that we do and we read up on and we try to hone our craft. So I've learned from a lot of, in TD, there's great leadership that I learned from, that I'll never forget. TELUS, same thing. Just that they got that human component to business, if there is such a thing. But you know what I mean? Like that it's and there is obviously, but it's back to that human component. I think that's what is gonna separate everybody from the rest. Is if you're able to be that that calming, that understanding, that level-headed. Because again, we often forget we're the expert in our industry. So we have to act as such. They're coming to you specifically because they're not an expert in what they're coming to you for. So how do I make that easiest, or how do I make that the path of least resistance? Because again, it takes something for a human being to admit, I need help, for one, to begin. And then they're vulnerable and they're coming to you. And then at the same time, they want to be understood, listened to, and heard, because they don't know. And then once you're able to bridge that gap, then you're able to build on that relationship and really offer whatever product and service or problem you're solving, right? It's more impactful, I guess is what I'm getting at. How impactful are you being in your business that makes them feel like they don't want to go anywhere else? And I think that's the key.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got one last question that I gotta ask you because I think it's the most fun. What's the strangest thing you do in your daily routine to keep you on your game?
Ooh, strange. I don't know if it's strange. I sing to myself. So depending on like, yeah, like I'll sing to myself to hype myself up. Kind of like the equivalent to like a rapper has like a hype man.
Yeah. So
I'll hype myself up with, lyrics to a song. I won't go into the songs because then you'll know my secret.
Yeah.
But I'll, maybe Taylor Swift. But anyway, no, I'm half kidding. But yeah, like I'll psych myself up with that. Like I'll sing to myself.
Love it.
Is the weirdest thing that I do.
So guys, this is Sales Team Rescue, episode 44. This is Jonathan Arango from Michael Hill. You can reach out directly to Jonathan, jonathan.arango@michaelhill.com. You can visit the Michael Hill website at michaelhill.ca. If you're in Canada, michaelhill.com. If you're in a bunch of countries, so they can find you.
Definitely.
So reach out to Jonathan though if you want some great advice around diamonds, around bling, watches, anything. Reach out to Jonathan. I know he would be happy to speak with you. Jonathan, thank you so much for being on Sales Team Rescue.
Oh no, thanks Jeremy for having me
and your time. Guys, as you know, we are live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to check out this replay or replay the previous episodes, go to salesteamrescue.com, and we will see you next week, Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Cheers, guys.